Azima, I am so excited to talk with you today about your online training business and kind of the journey you've been on, which has taken a lot of different turns in the recent years. But you are a GMB trainer, and you're also very involved in the BJJ community,
Mhm.
teaching and training. So I'm really excited to talk to you about the work that you've been doing and figuring out what works best for your business through all of this, through all these COVID times. But I want to start off with just tell us a little bit about how long you've been training and when you started doing online training.
How long I've been training? Long story, long story. Cut short. I've been training for like I would say almost 10ish years, but I've always been around fitness my whole life. My dad's a fitness professional. My brothers are fitness professionals. But I went through this like phase in my life. I was this angry teenager, not wanting to do anything with fitness, and then I kind of felt a calling when I was around 16 and wanted to overcome my eating disorder and some depression issues, and kind of stuck with that ever since. Also did maybe 1 or 2 years doing an office job, which I did not like because I was just too active for my own good. So I decided to go full time into training. Um, and for online training, I've kind of just been like when I've had like steady clients that I was seeing one on one, face to face. I didn't really dive too much into online training. I did do some like hybrid programming where I experimented with True Coach while I was still seeing them face to face. I only started diving into online training when I moved across the world to the US. I'm from Singapore originally, and I realized that that's something that I want to be able to do, to train, to work remotely and not have to commit myself to a gym or a specific location and be able to move around. And I want to be able to go back home to Asia and still service my clients in the US or the UK. And I just feel like I'm gonna expand with it. So I went into online training, and I only started really getting into it since maybe last year. But again, because I moved to the US on a tourist visa, I wasn't allowed to actually work for like
Right.
almost a year. So I had to do a lot of things on the down low and just use the time to experiment and make
Mhm.
as many mistakes as possible. Um, because I couldn't legally work anyway, and then started really, really making moves when I got my employment pass right when COVID started.
Oh
So
man.
that was just like, oh, I gotta go.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, not very long, really diving into it, but I did spend a whole year just not um, scrambling, working, but really experimenting and figuring out what works for me, and asking for help through numerous different like coaches. And that's another story in itself, finding the right people that you want to work with that have something that you want. um, you know
Yeah.
because there are tons of like I guess online coaches to help you with building a business, but I think it's important to find someone that you can work with and, have a good relationship with.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
So at this point, what are you offering online? Like what does your online training business look like?
Right now, I'm mainly doing like individualized coaching. Um, I call it individualized training and lifestyle programming. So it's programming how many days a week they want to train, minimum a 3 month commitment. But I also coach them in areas of, the lifestyle, that is their recovery, how much sleep that they're getting. Um, Also, sometimes, depending on the person, they want to talk about the emotions and the stresses that they're facing, especially in this current time. I think it's really important that someone has an outlet for that. And also I touch a little bit on nutrition guidance as well. So it's kind of that full package. Other than that, I've been coaching people through the GMB programs as well, Elements, because it's like my favorite program forever and ever. And I'm just so passionate about that one and guiding people through that. And other than that, I've also done some online classes, but I've been using those online classes as short-term experiments. So because I don't personally want to commit myself to say every Monday, Wednesday, Friday teaching a class,
Right.
because I find that there's just so much change, so many changes right now, and um, yeah, there's just so many changes, and I like to
Yeah.
stay flexible. So I've been doing like, I think I did one in May, just for the whole month of May, 2 classes a week. It was a paid one, so people signed up, paid for either a class, or if you paid for the full package, that was a price that made more sense to some people, and that actually got more results compared to um, earlier, before lockdown, before charging for those classes. I was doing like free classes just to get my face in front of more people, and that didn't actually get as much response as the paid classes. So that was a really good lesson too. When
Yeah.
people like commit with money, they tend to want to show up for what they paid for.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you have a couple of different things you offer. So I want to back up and just talk about each one of those for a second. So with
Mhm.
the individualized personal training, you said you do a 3-month commitment. You use True Coach for an
Mhm.
app to deliver programs. Um, what does that look like? Like, what does that include for the client? Do they get, a weekly email from you, or do they get any video calls with you, or like, how do you coach them through it?
So it starts out with like a face-to-face call on Zoom or Skype, a 1 hour call, just talking, just getting to know each other. That's actually even before we decide on like moving forward. That's so that I can, see if we're a good match. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's super important. And then also I get to know, what their back, their training background is like, um, what their current struggles are, what their goals are in terms of training. I like to kind of like dig in deeper to like their reason for wanting to train. Um, After that call, I start, programming for them. And every 2 weeks, we kind of check in on like a 30-minute call.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout, the week, they have access to my WhatsApp, and they message me at any time. And through True Coach, as they're doing the training sessions, sometimes I would ask them to record themselves and upload them straight away to like True Coach, so it doesn't take up my phone space.
Yeah.
And then that's where I can like make notes and adjustments. Sometimes if I need to, I'll take videos of myself um, making adjustments to their movements, or guiding them through a better way of doing movements if needed. And I put them all up on True Coach.
Cool.
Yeah, yes.
And you ask for a 3-month commitment. Do you ask for people to pay you for the full 3 months at once, or just like a month at a time, or how do you do all
I
that?
offer options because I think people like, choosing between having to pay like one lump sum, which I say would take the hassle of having to pay every month away. But some people do feel more comfortable with paying a smaller amount every month. So I keep that option kind of available to them for their sessions. Yeah.
And do you offer a discount if somebody pays for all 3 months at once?
Yes. Yes. Yes, for sure.
Right on.
Just because logistically it takes me a little bit more when they pay monthly.
Yeah, for sure. And how do you take payments from people?
So currently, I've been taking payments through PayPal, also because it has the option of creating invoices
Mhm.
for tracking and future tax purposes, I guess.
Yeah.
Alternatively, some people like to use Venmo, which I don't have, but I've been using my husband's Venmo account because I don't have a number with a line here. I'm still using like a prepaid card right now. There's also Cash App that I've done with just a few clients, but I try to just say just use PayPal, and if they object to PayPal or have some reason behind not using PayPal, then I'll offer the other options. But generally, PayPal, I don't mind paying. There is a fee for using PayPal, but I don't mind paying that fee to PayPal because, I get to create invoices. It's pretty easy to send money to my bank account and all that. So,
Right. And Venmo's only in the US, so
yeah,
your international clients couldn't use it anyway.
exactly.
Um, cool. And so the classes that you've been running, like the class you ran in May that did better because it was a paid class, where did you find those people who came into your class?
So, most of my marketing and audience is in Instagram. I'm still in the process of building my website, which I will just use to kind of like put stuff on my services so that people can like refer to. But I still um, would like to maintain Instagram as my main communication tool and my main like page to get more clients and put myself in front of people. It's just a page that I've been running since I was competitive in bodybuilding. So over the years, organically, it's just been a great growth in followers. And, I didn't see the need of wanting to like restart a page. Or I actually asked for advice from Ryan before about this, like whether if I should just create a new page and all that. But, I decided to just stick with it. And there have been some fluctuations around the years just in terms of like followers and the kinds of followers too. um, the more that I started to skew my content in a certain way to get the kind of audience that I wanted. But yeah, mainly Instagram and uh, utilizing lots of hashtags and following people, the people that I want to work with.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So hang on, I'm going to ask you more about that. But for your classes, like, did you ask people to commit to all the whole month at one time, or was it drop-in based? And how much did you charge for like an online class? Was it an hour? Tell me a little bit more details about the class.
So the class on May, it was called like a mobility and flow class. Prior to that, I didn't know what I want. I knew I wanted to teach a class, but I didn't know what to teach because there's so many things that I could teach, right? But I needed to find out what my audience wanted. So I put out a poll. What kind of class would you like to do? Is it a locomotion class, a mobility class? And then I also, over the span of a couple of weeks, I also asked people what are the common issues that you're struggling with. Um, what would you like to learn from me as like a Q&A on Instagram stories? And I realized that a lot of the answers were leaning to mobility and specific mobility. Some people were saying hips, some people were saying spine, some people were saying shoulders. So I was like, I'll just make this month like a mobility and flow month. Um, and then across those 4 weeks, I separated the mobility classes into certain body parts because some people wanted to just do spine, some people wanted to just do shoulders, some people wanted to just do hips or whatever. So I offered those options for people who want to just take one class. And then there are people who wanted to take the full um, package with all the different parts. And um, how did I price them? It's pretty, four classes for $40, and then each class was a $15 ticket. And I broke it up into 2 days, one day being for beginners and one day being for people who have been training for a while. and they just put it as athletes, beginners and athletes. So you get different kinds of people um, attending those classes. So
And did you get a good enrollment in all of them, or was there like certain ones that did better than the others?
I think it was a pretty equal distribution because in my followers, there are the people who have been training for a while, who have who want to get into more movement and flowy stuff, considering the gyms were closed at the time, but didn't know where to start. And then there were also the beginners, like beginner to fitness period, who wanted to, you know, start tuning into their body and all that. So I recognize that those were two separate um, audiences that I have, and they all wanted those things from me. So it was a pretty equal distribution across both classes.
That's awesome. And then talk to me about how you did classes prior to the May one that you said didn't work. Like you said, you tried a bunch of different things that like didn't go as well in that year before you could really start working legally. Like, what are some of the things that you were trying that like you were like, that didn't work, or how did you arrive to like what you ended up doing?
Well, I tried some Zoom session. I mean, not Zoom, Instagram live sessions. That didn't really work out very well because I don't know, the way that Instagram lives set up, um, the way people can just like comment and then you just get distracted with like who you're talking to and all that. That didn't really work for me. And really understanding like what I preferred. I preferred being in like a smallish group setting where I can like see people and also mute people if I need to, so that I can just be in my zone. Um, and then for a while, I did some locomotion classes, which were good. I do want to um, do some version of that again. Just that I didn't like that people kind of could come and go as they pleased. So there was not that consistency. And I do want to see a person who comes to my class more than once, even though I can't really control that. I do want to see progress and build a relationship with them. So in the beginning with the free classes and kind of not being very specific with what I was offering, um, that was usually a hit or miss. Sometimes I would, show up for a class and no one would attend.
Mhm.
And then, I kind of just would use the time to pretend I was teaching a class just for practice and also possibly using the recording in Zoom as content for my page. So I didn't really um, attach myself to a particular outcome, just kind of used it as an experiment. And if the results weren't something that I liked, I would adjust it in some way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. And so how have you been using your classes to kind of maybe convert people into more private training or to continue working with you in some capacity? Because you were saying you kind of were wanting to use these classes more as, marketing and promotion for other stuff that you do.
So building relationships with the clients, that's one thing. Um, Obviously I would like follow up with them after the classes to like how they felt and, what discoveries they have made. And, sometimes they would come back to me with an issue or a discovery that they found through the process of the class. And then I shoot them some useful links or tell them like, hey, maybe I can do an assessment with you. And then we'll take it from there. Sometimes they just want to do classes and then don't really want to commit to a program. That's completely fine because that's all like useful feedback for content
Mm-hmm.
to create. So I may not necessarily get to convert them to a client or, but I would be able to create content that would help them, that would maybe in the future lead them to wanting to join a class. Yeah, I've had a few people though that have attended a class and then, you know, realized that they wanted to learn more about, for example, locomotion. and then I push them to a GMB program that I guide them through as well. So
right on. So it sounds like you kind of have a couple of tiers, kind of like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that price points might even be tiered a little bit. Like your classes are sort of like entry point, and if you take somebody through a GMB created program, that maybe is a different price point, and then private coaching with you is its like highest price point.
Yeah.
So you have like a little bit of a menu of offerings depending on what somebody wants to get involved with or pay. That's awesome. So I also really appreciate that you are in it for the long haul with your audience, that it's not just about trying to like convert somebody pretty quickly into like a paid client, but that you're collecting information on your audience to make content to continue like cultivating this audience that you have. A lot of times when I talk to trainers, if they don't get a lot of people or they don't make a sale pretty quickly, it gets discouraging. And unfortunately, marketing is just not something can be really quickly most of the time. It takes a long time to make a lot of sales, and it takes a consistent effort over time. If it happened fast, we would all be doing really well financially as trainers. But can you talk a little bit about how you think about like your audience and like how you think about your content and talking to your audience, because you are so active on Instagram? Just tell me a little bit about how you go about it and how you think about your content.
Well, in the beginning, I thought that I would have to like always post like sexy stuff, you know, because I looked at my insights and that it's mostly males, right? But then I shifted from that thinking after I realized, obviously, making posts like that like didn't serve me. That's not what I am and what I want to always be talking about. So I started kind of like shifting towards like sharing more of my personal stories. In the beginning, I was telling you about, you know, using fitness as a means to help me overcome some issues like my eating disorders when I was a teenager, and my depression and all that. And when I started to talk more about that and become a lot more vulnerable in my writing and my posts, more people started reaching out. Like, you know, I think there's something to do with kind of like seeing the human in you. And of course, it was a scary like process because I don't want to like air dirty laundry or whatever, but then at the same time, it's also a way for some people to, you know, find someone that are like them. And, you know, in my own experience as well, coming out to the US and not knowing anyone and having to build a business from scratch, like I use social media or Instagram as a way to get to know more people that can help me or, you know, are on similar journeys. So that's how like my audience has kind of like shifted, and the content that I've created has been around, you know, has been coming from a place that is within. So I'm not just like making this stuff up. It's just, you know, the things that have helped me that I'm sure can help someone else too. And that way I feel like it doesn't feel forced or fake, or, you know, or I'm trying to be like someone else. I feel like it comes from like a more authentic place, and that would, you know, take me to more clients that I, you know, enjoy working with, want to work with, and I can connect with ultimately.
Yeah. And you mentioned, I mean, it sounds like the more that people can be vulnerable as a coach and talk about their own experience, I feel like it makes you relatable. I feel like people see trainers as like kind of not really relatable because, you know, it seems like it's easy for us to do fitness, and it's easy for us to eat well, and it's easy for us to be flexible. For most people, that's not the case.
No.
And even for us, sometimes it's not the case, but we portray it as being the case. So anything that makes us more human, I feel like is always good, when we can speak from like just our own experience and who we are. We instantly become more relatable to people. Um, and you also do a lot of interacting, with your followers, like by having surveys, or asking questions. Are there other little tips and strategies that you use for engagement? Because I know a lot of trainers feel really uncomfortable engaging in certain ways on social media. I often talk about how, like at a gym, like when you're working in a gym, you just talk to people. Like even if they're not your clients, you talk to your friends who are trainers, their clients. You talk to like the people who come in every day. You just get to know people, and it's really natural. And online, it's not as natural, but we still have to do that work to like create those relationships. So I'm wondering if you have any like, tips that you can offer that have helped you engage more with people.
Well, DMs, just talking to people through direct messages, answering questions when they appear, and answering comments. I think it's a big thing too. Sometimes I would get comments and then, just reply to them in a nice and friendly way. Sometimes that leads to a DM, or sometimes instead of replying to the comment, I'll just DM them right away and ask them if they need any help with whatever, especially if they say something like, oh, I wish I could do that, or, oh, my hamstrings are super tight, I couldn't touch my toes, blah, blah, blah. I'll always offer ways to kind of like be helpful and, be that person that they reach out to if they do it and need extra feedback or guidance. So just kind of like being that open hand to people to like, I'll grab you. Oh, what else do I do? Yeah, really just taking the time to get to know someone. I think that there's like this kind of like barrier when it comes to Instagram and messaging people on Instagram, because obviously, people are going to curate their pages and feed to look really nice, right? And then we forget that they're, human beings who probably have the same problems and same issues and same relationship issues, same self-organization issues and all that. But yeah, just taking that, sometimes all you need is just that 20 seconds of courage to just like message someone, hey, can I help you with something? And then just wait. If they don't reply, whatever, because you're probably not going to see them in person unless they do live around you. Then maybe you might have to hide. But chances are they don't live anywhere near you, and you might not see them ever in real life. So it really doesn't matter if they think that you're a weirdo.
So take a risk is basically what you're saying.
Yes. 20 seconds of courage sometimes is all you need to see what happens when you talk to someone.
And how often, like, how do you use your stories versus like your feed?
Stories are usually kind of like everyday life, day in the life kind of thing. Sometimes I post stuff about food, what I like to eat. And sometimes it's like training snippets, or whatever is happening. Sometimes I would go to the beach and record a nice little thing about the beach, or record some water story or boomerang or whatever onto my stories. And sometimes I share stories from other people, other coaches that I follow, um, that share the same perspectives or values in certain things, that I find that my followers would find useful. As for my posts, it's more to help or tell a story to my audience directly. Yeah. And yeah, definitely in my posts, it's a little bit more kind of like put together, curated in a way. I try to create posts that are stories, that ask questions, that give people tips or help, and sometimes demo some stuff, movement demos,
Cool.
talking videos.
And do you typically, when you ask people to like, reply back or leave a comment or answer a survey or anything like that, do you get a pretty good response?
It it depends. In the past, like if I would just like, you know, put like a question at the bottom of a really long, lengthy, wordy post, like I wouldn't get a response, or if I put like a movement demo and you know don't really um relate it to whatever like kind of help that other people may need, then I don't get a response. But sometimes I guess it's the way I word it too, or like write about it. I gotta remember that not everybody has the time to read my 10 paragraphs. And what's been helping for me is imagining that my audience are like a bunch of like 5th graders that have the attention span of a goldfish, and and just like writing things in like big words so that they be like, "Ooh, what is this?" And that's been like getting me a lot more engagement for sure. And mixing up. I used to do lots of like different movement demos of me just playing around with locomotion movements, and you know would write captions that kind of like express like how I was feeling at the moment. But it wasn't really like people liked watching it and like liking it or whatever, but there wasn't engagement. So I needed to start asking questions and being more specific with my writing, as opposed to just being very like um, there's that, I guess, that artist side of me, but sometimes that has to like kind of like have to put that aside for a little and be a little bit more like targeted and specific with my messaging and what I'm trying to say to people and how I'm trying to help people.
Right. So I think sometimes trainers post stuff that they think people want to watch, but often the things that people will really engage with are like much different than what we
Mm-hmm.
typically think of posting. What kind of posts, like, so you said like the kind of like more like your locomotion combos that you were just kind of posting weren't getting as much of a response. What kind of posts get more response? Like if you're teaching something, or do you do talking head videos, or like what are the types of things that like you find work well?
For the talking head videos, I have been getting good responses when I do that. I don't really like doing those talking head videos.
I don't think any trainer likes doing them. I've been having this conversation with so many trainers, but it usually gets a better reply than
Yeah,
just moving.
yeah, I think it's something to do with like, like being this talking head that directly addresses the person and the person feels like, oh, you're talking to me. Um, but those talking head videos are normally I talk about like a specific topic, right? Like what was my last one? There's something to do with um, training routines that fit will get you fit. I was just kind of like talking about how you should find a routine that works for you, and instead of just following the crowd and whatever doing funny random routines and YouTube videos and all that, and lots of people related to that. um uh, as compared to certain like I do have videos of me that I post where I'm just like training and flowing around. I get responses like that's a cool flow, and I wish I could do movements like you and whatever. But it doesn't like answer a question or whatever. Um, Recently, I've been putting out like posts with no images or movement and just like words.
Hmm.
Like, what are you waiting for was my last one. And I've gotten much more engagement in terms of direct messages and even the comments. So sometimes just being direct, just asking questions and not putting anything else will get you more results than spending 2 hours on like a post writing a big old story. And sometimes deep stories too, like um, personal stories of like maybe like my training or whatever problem that I have overcome also generates response. So whatever that people, I think people can relate to, or answer, or can resonate with, I think definitely creates more engagement than
Yeah,
just, yeah.
right on. So you mentioned to me that you're interested in creating an online program for BJJ
Yeah.
athletes. So where are you
Mhm.
at in that process? How's that going?
Right now, um, gathering feedback from people and what are the things that people are generally struggling with when it comes to training. Not just online, but also I'm still doing a bit of jujitsu. So the people that I meet in the gym, I've currently, been working more with beginners, with beginners to jujitsu, and just kind of um, I've been assisting my coach in like teaching them as well jujitsu, and I kind of like also ask questions on. I observe and ask questions of what they're normally struggling with in terms of tightness or restrictions in their movements and current common pains and injuries, because there are so many, especially when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to beginners. And um, I experiment with little like concepts or GMB method stuff with being mindful in your movements within certain jujitsu techniques or concepts, and that's been working really well. Um, just to get people to feel into their bodies when you're doing the movements, because sometimes they're like, "Huh, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta memorize all this stuff," and then they're all in their head and not in their bodies, and
Mm-hmm.
that I find was the most like the main thing that jujitsu newbies or people that don't spend time like dropping into their bodies find the most struggle with. Because you could have like a really um, pretty advanced athlete, but they have trouble kind of learning new things because they don't know how to feel into their bodies. They've just been conditioned to do the thing for X amount of times, just repeatedly like a machine, but not so much like feeling into making the adjustments that work for them at the right within that time. So working on that, kind of like writing out like the curriculum or whatever, or like how the course is gonna flow. I intend to make it like a short-term course, like a 5 to 8 week course that people can buy and reuse whenever. Um, that includes, locomotive stuff and also other stuff that I have learned from other coaches as well. I think it'll be a really cool way to integrate um, what I love teaching and also a community that I want to give back to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think it'll be a fun little
Yeah. And
experiment.
do you know how you're going to deliver that program yet, or like what platform you'll sell it on, or like how that will go? Is that something you can do in True Coach?
I wouldn't do a true coach. I wouldn't do a true coach for this. I think true coach is good for like one-on-one programming and that kind of stuff, but not so much um, delivering courses. So I have personally, over the past maybe like 2 years, I've done some courses on Thinkific with Yun
Mm-hmm.
John, and from a consumer side, I really like the way that it's all set up. It's really easy to use, um, pretty fuss free. And I get email notifications if I have a workout due or if I have new material uploaded. So I really like that part. And I've been talking to a coach that I know who is just like learning to use Thinkific, and the feedback that I've gotten from it has been pretty much positive. So I might jump into that just because I've used it before, and I would like my my clients to have that same easy experience as well.
Cool. And do you have a time frame for when you want it to be out? I'm excited for this.
Oh no.
No pressure, no pressure.
Ideally, this is the third quarter, the last quarter of this year. So the last 3 months of this year, I would want it out by then. So now it's still lots of experimenting and just asking more questions. And also I would like to do a round of just beta testing with like a small group of people, maybe 10 people. So I'm like looking for people that I can like test that out.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think also I wanted to do this, and I did the GMB group kind of coaching first, just to kind of have a feel of what group coaching is like. The first time I tried to do this group coaching, I had just like left Singapore. That was well over a year ago, and it didn't work really well, just because there were so many things going on and I was moving around. I didn't know how to like market it. I didn't know how to reach the audience that I wanted to reach. And the second time around, I actually got, or in the past, I got only like one person signing up who didn't even like finish the whole thing. And I was like, no. And then the second time around, I actually got 9 people when I was like
Nice.
aiming for 10, which was
That's good.
great. Yeah, and that was all because I made shifts in, you know, targeting the right people and letting people know that this course is for movement beginners, so just beginners in general. And that, I think people saw that and was like, hey, that's me. I want to sign up for that.
And so for when you take people through like a group coaching program like that, what marketing, you said speaking to beginners, but what kind of marketing strategies work the best? Like I've talked with like Edith, for example, Edith Maria, she has done this too. And she said that like for her, doing a talking head video explaining the way the course was going to work really helped get people to sign up, because she figured out that the barrier was people don't really understand the way it works. Like, how does a group coaching program work? I think now, in post-COVID happening, more people understand this stuff than they did 7 months ago, right? Like most people weren't really looking for online training programs in the same way they are now.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, but I'm curious, like, what strategies worked for you to get those 9 people? Like, how did you speak to beginners? What kind of stuff were you posting?
I was doing quite a bit of locomotion stuff, and letting people know that for hey beginners, if you want to start moving this way, I have a course. I'm looking for people to join this group that I'm leading through the Elements course. I talk about my experience with the Elements course. And then there were also a handful of people who do Jiu Jitsu, who is like, I see how Elements has, how you talk about Elements helping with your Jiu Jitsu, and that's why I want to do this course with you, to get feedback, or to have your perspective as I'm going through this program. I've also posted videos for this group in particular. I've also posted like movement demos on my Instagram, doing locomotion in my gi, and that in itself attracts BJJ players, or people new to BJJ who want to move better in BJJ to like come in and start asking questions. I also created like a little landing page for people to find out more about the course.
Oh,
I
awesome.
probably, yeah, I wanted to do like a talking video, um, but then I was just like taking too long to like to like
You were
create it.
procrastinating.
Yeah, I was procrastinating because I didn't really want to do it, or like it's one of those things that it would, I just like want to record it and then it just ends up being like a 16-minute video. I know I was gonna watch it.
Right.
So I was like, I'm just gonna use my strengths, and I think it's writing right now, so I'll just use that.
Play to your strengths. Play to your strengths. For
Exactly,
sure.
exactly. And that was
So
a time where I needed to make a little bit of money too, because we were moving and all that. So I was just like,
so you just
it
made a
worked
little
out.
landing page that had all the info about the program and all that.
I made a landing page, and it had a little button if you're interested. Put your email here, and then that led to more emails, and me messaging them about what you're gonna need, sending them an invoice and all that. It wasn't the best kind of like um, flow, but I was just looking for 10 people max, so I was prepared to just kind of do the extra work because it didn't have like an automated email following up with whatever, so I just had to go in and kind of
Right.
find their email and message them personally and all that.
And your landing page didn't have a pay here button or something like that.
No, no. um Yeah, because I don't have a website yet.
Right.
So but I have been using MailChimp for a bit. And I found that MailChimp does have, landing pages and sometimes even like, you could make payments through that. But at that time, I couldn't access because my social security was too new. And the platform, I think, was like, I can't remember what it was. It started with an S that they were taking payment through.
Stripe.
I think so, or something different. I don't know. But yeah, because they needed my social security to see if I was like legit. But I typed it in and they said it's too new. We're not gonna verify that. I'm like, well.
But that's okay. So this is a really great tip because a lot of trainers wanting to do this stuff, the tech savvy, we're not there yet. I totally get it. Like when I was just starting off, I remember when I did a flexibility course and I didn't have a landing page. And then looking back, I was like, oh, I should have had a landing page. But at that time, I didn't really know what a landing page was or like what that meant.
Yeah.
This is a couple of years ago now. So like, for those who are listening who don't know, landing page is just like basically a one-page website that is temporary that you put up for like just a specific purpose. So like for this would be this online group coaching program for people to like get a little bit more info. And with most landing pages, you can have a pay button. But I think that entering your email address is also a really great option if you're not quite set up with a Stripe account or like connecting all those things. If that feels overwhelming, just entering an email address and then like doing the manual work of following up is a great way to start. And especially with something like MailChimp, it's free for up to like 2,000 subscribers or something like that. So like for most of us, it would be free for quite a while. And it's a really great, easy way to get started. Like super easy. That's what I always direct people to MailChimp because it's easy and free.
Yeah.
Right on. This has been super awesome to get to know what you're up to a little bit more. Do you have a piece of advice for people who are just like trying to get going in the online training world? Like people who are, there's a lot of trainers who are just getting started with this now that COVID happened. A lot of trainers are doing mostly virtual coaching, but are interested in branching off into more, different options. There's a lot of options. So I'm curious if you have any advice for people who are just kind of getting started.
Experiment everything. Everything is an experiment. I guess, don't be too stuck on one way of doing things, just because a thing didn't work before doesn't mean it won't work again if you make adjustments. Um, yeah, because I feel like now there's just so many ways of, being able to do um, what you want to do. And you're always going to find, you're going to be able to find the people that you want to work with who, speak your language, who, you actually enjoy being around and wanting to help. So keep experimenting. And, if one thing doesn't work, there's always another way of looking at it. And don't hesitate to ask for help.
Yeah, for sure. And what about for people who've maybe been doing online training for a little while and are looking to build their following or build their lead pool, their clients? I know you're not the only trainer who's had to kind of start over from scratch, or who have kind of like faced, there are trainers who were doing online training and then also doing in-person training, and then COVID hit, and then so their client load drops. So I know they're looking for more people. Like what kind of advice do you have for people who are looking to build their following more to get more clients?
Yeah. Although it can feel like you have to do everything and say everything to get as many people kind of like looking at you at the same time. I think it's definitely useful to really identify your who's. Um, for example, for me, my who's are beginners. Like I enjoy working with beginners to fitness in general, to movement, and also I want to be working with BJJ players who want to train, who want to tune into their bodies more. And then in the future, I would like to work with more with people dealing with mental health related issues who want to use training as an outlet, but I haven't really dived into that yet. And that's okay. Right now, I'm focusing on these two who's. And then, I with those who's identifying what they need. You can put out surveys, just ask questions, put up polls on your stories, and then also, writing down the answers on like your own little spreadsheet, or, I have like notes lying around that I should probably like put on spreadsheets, but whatever works for you. And um, finding out questions that you can ask questions that are related to this who, what you even want to learn about these people too, um, and then what are the ways that you can help these people, and also like stories that you can tell. So finding out the who's, what they need, questions you can ask, how you can help, and the stories that you can tell that these people can probably resonate with.
So those are all ways to generate content for what to post. Awesome.
Exactly.
Really great info. I am going to link your Instagram handle to this video so that if people have questions, they can reach out to you. And this is great information. I'm really excited to hear how it goes developing the BJJ program, and maybe we can talk again after you have that up and running.
Yes. And thank you for having me here. I enjoyed sharing, and anyone who, wants to reach out, talk to someone, I'm always looking for friends to talk to. So just reach out to me on Instagram, and good luck, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks so much again for taking some time to talk with me today.
Thank you.